Welcome, beautiful creatures, to the Lightness of Being podcast, where we celebrate the dance of life and explore ways to find joy, laughter, and lightness, even when faced with challenges. Join me, your host, Monika Stefanik, as we step into the light and discover a realm of potential and possibilities for greater ease in our lives. Let's laugh, learn, and grow together. Greetings, you amazing, incredible creators. Welcome to the podcast, or welcome back. It is such a special day, and I did not know if I was going to record. The guidance was in this direction, though, so I'm so grateful to be here and to share whatever is meant to come through. Tonight, as it is evening at this point in time, is the longest night of the year and the shortest day. It is Winter Solstice 2024. And what a day it is. There's this theme, right, of kind of like befriending the darkness and also being so grateful for the return of the light, because at this point in time, we're going to start to come into more light during the days, which we are all very excited for. These last couple of days, it felt really, really dark, and I'm not talking just like physically, like outside, but also emotionally. And there's just been some things swirling, at least in my realm and in the realms of others around me. So yeah, darkness, my old friend. I actually pulled, so apparently this might end up being a theme. I pulled another Starseed Oracle card from Rebecca Campbell's book, and of course it ended up being the void. Stop. Embrace winter. The great cosmic womb. And just soak that in for a minute. Yeah, the void. And I'd like to read the transcription from the book. Everything and nothing exists in the void. It's where all life begins and ends. It's the winter and the womb, the fertile darkness where all things originate and all seeds grow. Comforting and intimidating, freeing and daunting. It can feel both overwhelmingly small and huge. The void is where faith lives. The message of the void is to surrender to the unknown, to allow the fertile darkness of nothingness to nourish the new seeds growing within you. Regardless of whether you know what they'll one day become, you're being called to surrender to the mystery of what's next, to rest, and to allow the winter of your life to do the work for you, to hand over your control and trust that just because you can't see what's happening beneath the surface, it doesn't mean things aren't at work. The greatest weavings happen when we find a way to surrender and trust that our life is being knitted for us. Right beneath the surface, in ways known and unknowable. Now is the time to cultivate faith and allow deep, deep rest. The void often surfaces at the end of a chapter or life phase, when we're called to let go of all that we know and identify with. When you're in the void, it can feel scary and as if you should be doing something. However, when this card appears, it's a sure sign that the most productive thing to do is relinquish control and surrender to the changing mystery of your life. The Starseed Soul Inquiry, which you can use as a journal prompt. How are you being called to surrender to the unknown mystery of your life? So, like, all these things are always so on point and synchronistic, which is how divination tools work. Currently, I am in a place where some big things have shifted in my realm and have brought me to that place of just deep surrender and trust and letting go of control. I have this tendency to desire to just like fix things, which I'm sure none of you can relate to that. Like fix and control, and all coming from a genuine space, especially when it's related to like interpersonal dynamics, which is most of what I'm dealing with right now, is some relational darkness. And in that darkness, like allowing myself to be very much with the turbulence that comes initially. And after that, just like really seeing myself and how I used to approach these types of situations, and now choosing something completely different, which feels so good and so nurturing to me. And especially with the synchronicity of this day and being deep in physical darkness as well, it's just so it's just so synchronistic. Like be in the darkness and find a way to surrender to it and just let it be. Like whatever will be, whatever's meant to happen will happen, and no amount of worry or anxiety or control or like thinking, right? Like mentally thinking through the situation is going to change anything. So to just relax and release and to just trust and to loosen my grip has been the theme of the day, the energy going on around. And yeah, I'm sure that that's meant to come through for a reason, because I'm here recording. I guess, yeah, let's touch on that space right now. So for me, being in this current space that I am, it's the message here is kind of like, may our darkness show us where to shine. And in the midst of this more personal darkness that I'm experiencing, it has allowed me to, like I said, make a choice, right? Like I could choose to go deep into the depths of that darkness and just be fully just like be in it and kind of let it like take over me, like not from a space that's actually healthy and conducive, right? Like feeling our feelings and letting that stuff move through and then coming out onto the other side of it. But I could choose to just go deep into the wrongness of me and the judgments and all the stuff that I have of the situation, or I could choose to use it to find a way to shine my light, which is such a much different choice for me. And this builds like resiliency through really challenging situations, right? And so I'm in a really challenging place right now. And in that space, I'm choosing to be creative, and I'm choosing to show up in deep love for myself and deep reverence and deep care for my life and what I'm creating. And that feels so, so, so good to be able to channel that energy that I'm experiencing into a creative expression and to let my light shine. Like, this is so freaking joyful for me. I love doing this. And it just fills me with such an exuberance for life to be able to like show up in this space and in this way. And in the vulnerability and in the authenticity of like what's going on in my life, right? Like shit's a little challenging in the relationship world right now. And it's okay. It's okay. And I'm doing great. And it all gets to be present. And like I'm just so proud of myself to be here in this space of like, and I'm choosing to create and I'm choosing to sit down and record this transmission for the collective. Whoever is meant to hear this will find this, right? So through that, really coming back into that space of deep self-love, which, you know, we were touching on back in my first podcast of like just coming back here, right? Like when everything gets wild and crazy, like coming back here. And it's definitely so easy to like, whoa, oh my God, like try to get, I'm trying to get my footing and then just coming back here. So that's what I've been doing. And there's been a lot of like, I'll share some of the ways that looks for me, at least right now. It means doing yoga. It means meditating. It means getting the best sleep that I can, taking care of my dog and prioritizing his well-being and putting my energy and attention and focus on caring for something outside of myself and like in a deeper way than I do normally so that my brain doesn't run off and do its crazy. And through that, those actions then just contribute and bring me more joy and feed that light that lives inside of me. And from there, then I get to show up to my work, my life, like showing up for my clients, showing up for this space and radiating my devotion to my life, to myself through that. And it just feels so good. I was very divinely guided last night in the thralls of this emotional turbulence to go to Kirtan with the Ben Bhakti collective. And I haven't been to like a full Kirtan in a long time. And synchronistically, again, as I was just like calling my friends and just getting some support, one of my friends was going to Kirtan and I was like literally on my way close to that area to walk Henry. And so like we got to go outside for a little bit and then we went to Kirtan, and being there was just so incredibly nourishing. And especially at this time of year when it's just so dark out at night, being surrounded by so much light. And I mean like beings of light and beams of light and sound of light is just such a nourishing space and the absolute best thing that I could have chosen for myself last night. And being there and listening to the music curators just bring this absolute magic through. At the end, one of them was talking about us being pillars of light, right? Like we did this really beautiful meditation, which we can take a second and drop into that space for a moment. Maybe close your eyes if you can. Take a big deep breath. And from here, just bringing the attention to the core of your being, maybe right along your spine, that center channel, that Sushumna Nadi. and imagining this big pillar of light just extending through the core of your being. And once you got that, once you're holding that, letting these little ripples, maybe like waves, whatever that looks like for you in your mind's eye, ripple out into all the space around you. Just imagine that light filtering into the people, the animals, the plants, the land that you live in, just extending, extending, extending out until it covers the entire world. And just letting your light shine. And from that space, remembering that that's who we truly are, right? Like, we are beings of light. We are pillars of light, even when we don't remember. We are. And so that's a really simple, I loved that because that was such a simple way to come back to that space, to that remembrance. That is where we move from. That is who we are. I was just so incredibly grateful for that in that moment. Thank y'all for doing that. Yeah, I guess while we're on this theme of, I'm always playing with a crystal when I do these. I have to. It's nice to have something. This is lapis lazuli, which is great for our throat, right? Speaking our truth, and it's in the shape of a heart. Feels so good. Yeah, so I mean, it's winter solstice. We're in this period of time where we've been in a lot of darkness. It's deeply dark. The light is coming back. We're so freaking grateful for that. And I feel really called to just touch on this theme of darkness right now, but from a light space. Because darkness is something for me, like, it's a friend. And I have become so comfortable in the depths of my soul and the darkness that I've experienced within this human experience over, the amount of time that I have been alive, which is about to add a whole nother year in just a few days. I have spent so much time befriending that space of darkness, and I feel like I don't know if my experience is necessarily unique. However, what I encounter with people I end up talking to is that more often than not, the beings that I come into contact with have shared stories of tending to shy away from that darkness, and for out of what, fear, shame, a whole bunch of things. And I totally understand, and it truly is, like, in my experience, right, it truly is like by befriending that darkness and allowing it to be present, right? Because the polarities are really important. Like, without the darkness we wouldn't have the light. And so it's just as important to step into and honor that space that is, as it is to step in and honor the space of light. They're equally, it's like the yin and the yang, right? Like, they are equal, like one without the other. Like, you can't see the light without the darkness. You can't see the darkness like the light. Such a beautiful swirling together and mixture of energy. So yeah, with that darkness, I guess I wanted to touch on, like, what has been my guiding light that has led me through, because I spent a grand portion of my life in deep darkness, and I'm talking like depression, suicidal ideation, I was obviously anxious and worried and all these things. And for a while I actually didn't even really know what it was. Like labeling it as, depression came later after a deeper understanding of what I was experiencing. And through that, there was so much time where, I was just deep in it. And as I was reflecting and getting ready to record this podcast, I was like, what? Like, how did I even get out of that? Because like when you're in those spaces, when you've experienced that, like you have all of these moments as like, Psh, I'm outie, like I don't want to be here. I don't want to be doing this. Like you're just fully in it. And I was like, how did I get from that to where I'm at right now? And there's definitely been a progression, right? Like things have shifted and changed. And I was like, the first thing that really came through for me at that point in time was, man, honestly, the people in my life. Like, no one really knew because I didn't share, right? Because it's kind of stigmatized to like share about the fact, not as much nowadays, but like stigmatized to share about your mental health. And so that's been a journey. And even though I was, very deeply sad, my expression outwardly didn't always reflect that. And so a lot of people didn't know what was going on in here. Like I saved that for the darkness of my bedroom and the darkness of my alone time. And I didn't let a lot of that come out into the lightness of the day and share it with people. And yet, even though no one really knew or could fully understand like what I was going through and experiencing, it was still my attention and love and just like empathy and reverence for the people in my life that was like the first touch point that led me through the darkness and the despair that I was experiencing. And I will say that for me, in my experience, I feel like the only reason that that's where it started was because I have experienced two people very close to me when I was younger and first going through all of this, choose to leave this planet of their own volition. And that was really, really challenging for me in ways that I cannot even express. And if you've experienced it, you know. And so being one of the ones that was like left behind, right? Like knowing what it was to be on the other side of that experience, that was one of the feelings that I kept coming back to. I was like, if you leave, how is that going to affect the people in your life? And so because I just deeply cared for everyone, that was like my first touch point and my first piece with it, which is, I'm so grateful, like that for those experiences, because, maybe if I didn't go through that, who knows where we would be today. So grateful for all the challenging aspects of life. And then it started to shift from caring for people, and then I chose to bring a creature into my life, right? I got Henry, my dog, and yeah, because I needed a companion, and I have self-trained him as a service animal. He's a psychiatric service animal. He's absolutely amazing and incredible. It's out of this world wonderful. And, by focusing on his, like caring for another being besides myself was something that helped me get up every single morning and helped get me outside and helped me nurture and care for a living, breathing being, because it was so much easier at that. Like I had such negative thoughts running through my head about me, about myself and my being, that it was so much easier to pour that care and connection and devotion and love into another creature. And I was very happy to do it. And it transitioned into, taking care of him, which again, I don't know where I would be without that choice. And he is the like near and dearest thing closest to my heart. I love him so much. And from there over the years it's transitioned to, as I've deepened with myself and gone on a journey of awakening and self-healing and all of this, which is, once you have those awakenings, then there's this like unraveling, unfolding, continuous process of what healing is and what that looks like for you. And so then it started to shift into devotion for my practice, whether it was like yoga and meditation and prayer and just like, and music. Like music has been such medicine for me, especially like Trevor Hall and Nako and Rising Appalachia, to name a few. Those are the top ones. uh, it's been such a beautiful unfolding to witness the shift go from the more physical plane into this more now like very devotional space, which leads to, and like from prayer and devotion, then I was able to get to that space of like self-love and compassion and forgiveness of myself, and filling that with so much love and compassion in so many different ways, whether it's physically taking care of my body or energetically and sweetly and softly through rest and all of these different things. So it's been such a beautiful unfoldment. So to witness it go from the physical right into this more ethereal realm, and it being that transition and it being where it's at right now has allowed me that resilience and those tools and that practice, that constant practice has allowed me to deal with and cope with what I'm experiencing right now at this moment in time, this darkness, this relational darkness, in a completely different way than I would have in the past. And so instead of going deep down into the like emotional realm and victimhood and feeling bad for myself and maybe blaming like all of that stuff, like instead of that coming up and through, I was like able to be like, okay, where are these tools of devotion and self-love and prayer, and come back to those. And then by diving into those, being able to be where I'm at right now, which like it's feeling really centered and feeling really good. And even though I feel sad, there's definitely a sadness and grief that will come, I'm sure. I know that I've got the tools to be able to support and hold myself through it all, and timeless practices and tools. Like these are not just like stuff that's, like I've done in the past where it's like covering it up. I mean, I used to self-medicate and all this other stuff to get through the depression and the like deep emotional turmoil that I was in. And that's not something that I do anymore. I don't need it. I have these other practices that nurture me in a much more supportive way so that I can radically show up for myself and for my life and for my creation, regardless of what's going on externally. And that is priceless. And the gratitude that I have for the journey and just me constantly showing up for myself, even when it's hard. Like I am freaking stubborn and very, very resilient. And those can be, the stubbornness can be a challenging quality in certain areas. But when it comes to this and being stubborn enough to just live a life of love, genuine, unconditional love for myself, so that can radiate out around me, is exactly where I want to be. Mm. So with that, I wish you all a beautiful solstice, even though this is probably going to air after. So the light will be fully coming back whenever you choose to listen. And what a beautiful gift that is. The changing of the seasons to remind us that the change is the only constant. And we get to ebb and flow with all pieces and parts of life. Big love and gratitude to you all.